Daniel Carter stood on the observation deck of the orbital station and stared at the strange shapes moving through the black sky. They were not stars. They were not asteroids. They were ships, alien ships, huge vessels, bright with cold blue light, shaped in ways no human ship had ever been shaped. Some looked like floating towers. Others looked like wings stretched wide across space. They moved together like a swarm of giants. Daniel felt a chill, but he also felt something else. He had been waiting for this moment, just like many others on Earth. Humanity knew this day would come. Captain Laura Mitchell stood beside him. Her face was calm, her eyes steady. She had seen wars on Earth before, but this was something different. These ships were not from Earth. These ships came from the Galactic Council, the rulers of the stars. Everyone had heard the stories about them. Worlds that joined the Council had to bow. They had to kneel. They had to give their resources, their people, their loyalty, without question. The Council ruled not by kindness but by fear. And now it was Earth's turn. On Earth below, the world was in shock. Families looked up at the sky and saw strange new lights moving above the clouds. News channels spoke in every language, showing images of the alien fleet. Some people were afraid. Some prayed. Some cheered because they had guessed this would happen. In government buildings, leaders gathered quickly. They knew the choice would come fast: kneel before the Council or stand against them. The aliens did not believe in long talks. They gave orders and others obeyed. That was the way it had always been. But Earth was not like other worlds. Daniel thought about his parents back in Texas. They had told him stories about how humans had always fought for freedom, again and again, no matter the odds. Humanity had never been the strongest or the oldest species, but they had a history of standing tall when pushed. That memory made Daniel's lips curve into a small smile. He knew he was not alone. Across Earth, millions were feeling the same. The aliens thought Earth would kneel, but humans were already preparing to surprise them. The alien message arrived. A beam of light carried it straight into Earth's networks. Every screen, every device, every speaker played the same voice. It was deep, harsh, and filled with pride. The alien envoy spoke slowly, but its words were clear in every language. The voice said Earth had been noticed by the Galactic Council. The Council demanded surrender. Earth must give up its armies, its ships, its technology, and even its people for service. Earth must kneel before the Council or Earth would be destroyed. The message spread like fire. People stopped in the streets to listen. In homes, families went silent. In schools, children froze. On farms and factories in busy cities, the words sank into every ear. But what happened next was not what the aliens expected. People did not fall into despair. People began to whisper to one another. The whispers grew into quiet laughter, then into a knowing smile. They had been preparing for this day. In the command center of the orbital station, Captain Mitchell turned to her officers. Her voice was firm. Send a reply to the Council. Tell them Earth has heard their demand. Tell them Earth will respond soon. Daniel asked. Do you think they know? Laura shook her head. They don't. They think we're weak. They think we're like every other world they've forced into silence, but Earth was not weak. For years, while the Council ignored them, humans had been learning. They had discovered pieces of alien technology hidden in ancient wrecks that had fallen into the solar system. They had sent secret ships to mine far-off asteroids. They had built weapons in silence, testing them where no eye could see. The Council had never cared about Earth before, and that was their mistake. Humans had been given time to prepare, time to grow strong, and now that strength was hidden behind their smile. Back on Earth, in a small workshop in Arizona, Samuel Brooks, a quiet engineer, tightened the final bolts on a strange new device. He had been working in secret for years with a team of other engineers and scientists. The device hummed with power. It was small, but it carried the energy to pierce through alien shields. Samuel did not know that in only a few days his creation would change the galaxy. For now he only whispered to himself, "Let them come. We're ready." The Council fleet did not move closer yet. They waited. They always waited for the answer. They believed the answer would be surrender, because that was the only answer anyone had ever given. Daniel continued to watch from the observation deck. He imagined the aliens sitting in their shining halls, certain of their power. He imagined their faces when they would see Earth's true answer. President Alan Brooks, no relation to Samuel, sat in the Great Hall in Washington. Around him, Generals, scientists, and advisors spoke quickly, offering plans and fears. Some argued for surrender. Some demanded to fight. The president listened quietly. At last he raised his hand and the room fell silent. His words were calm and simple. "We will not kneel, not now. Not ever." Those words traveled faster than light across secret channels. Soldiers in hidden bases smiled. Pilots in underground hangars prepared their ships. Scientists in quiet labs checked their work once more. Ordinary men and women looked at the sky with steady hearts. They were afraid, yes, but they were also proud. Humanity had been underestimated. The Council thought Earth was nothing but a small young world. They had no idea what was waiting for them. Night fell across the planet. In homes, people sat with their families, talking softly. In schools, teachers told children about the times humans had faced impossible battles and still survived. On farms, farmers stood by their fields, looking at the stars with clenched fists. In cities, crowds gathered and whispered together. No one shouted. No one panicked. Instead, a strange calm settled across Earth, the calm of people who knew who they were. The calm of people who refused to kneel. On the orbital station, Daniel asked Captain Mitchell, "Do you think they'll attack right away?" She answered, "Maybe, or maybe they'll wait for us to beg. But we won't beg, and when they finally make their move, they'll see what humans are made of." Daniel nodded. He was young, but he understood. Humanity had always been underestimated by stronger powers. That was why they had survived so long. That was why they would survive now. Somewhere deep in his chest, Daniel felt the fear melt into something stronger. It was courage, and it was spreading to everyone around him. Far above, the alien ships floated in silence. They looked down on Earth, expecting a broken world. Instead, they found a planet that was calm. A planet that was waiting. A planet that was smiling. The first part of the story was just beginning. The galaxy had demanded Earth kneel. Humanity's reply was not yet spoken, but it was clear in their eyes, in their hearts, and in their smiles. The Council had no idea that this small blue world was about to change everything. And Daniel Carter, Captain Laura Mitchell, Samuel Brooks, and President Alan Brooks were all part of the first steps toward a future no one in the galaxy had ever imagined. Humanity was ready. The galaxy simply did not know it yet. The alien ships stayed in orbit, silent and still, like predators watching their prey. They waited for Earth to answer, but Earth did not send the answer the Council expected. In homes, schools, and bases, people carried on with quiet strength. The calm was not weakness. It was the calm of preparation. Humanity had been working for years in the shadows, and now their secrets would soon come to light. On the orbital station, Captain Laura Mitchell walked through the command deck. Screens showed alien ships, each glowing like a cold jewel in space. Officers worked quietly, no panic in their movements. Daniel Carter sat at his console, studying the energy waves that came from the enemy fleet. The patterns were strange, almost beautiful, but Daniel was not fooled. He knew beauty could be dangerous. He saw something else too. The alien shields pulsed like a heartbeat. Strong, yes, but not perfect. Daniel leaned closer to his screen. "Captain, I think I found something." Laura stepped behind him. "Show me," Daniel explained in simple words. "Their shields are strong, but they're not steady. There are moments when the energy drops. Small moments, but they are there. If we time it right, we can break through." Laura gave him a look of quiet pride. "Good work, save that. We may need it very soon." Far below in Arizona, Samuel Brooks sat in his workshop. The machine he built hummed with power. His hands were greasy, his eyes tired, but his heart was full of determination. Samuel had been called strange by some of his peers. He built devices others said were too risky, too wild. But Samuel believed in human creativity. He believed humans could always find a way. And now with the alien fleet above, his work was no longer just theory. His inventions would be tested in the fire of war. The secret human fleet was hidden far from Earth, beyond the reach of alien eyes. In caverns on the moon, in deep bunkers on Mars, and in hidden hangars on icy moons of Jupiter, ships waited. They were smaller than alien ships, but they were faster. They were not built to look beautiful. They were built to survive and adapt. Each one carried weapons that no alien had ever seen. Earth's engineers had studied alien ruins for decades, combining alien ideas with human problem-solving. The result was something new, something the Council had never faced. President Alan Brooks met with his closest advisors in a secure room. The air was tense, but the president's face was calm. He listened to every report. The alien fleet's strength, Earth's defenses, the risks of open war. When the room grew loud with arguments, he spoke in his steady voice. They expect us to surrender. They believe fear will guide us. But they are wrong. Fear has never guided us. We are human. We adapt, we fight, and we will not kneel. His words carried through secure channels to bases around the solar system. Soldiers straightened their backs. Pilots checked their ships with sharper eyes. Scientists pushed their experiments further. Civilians in cities, towns, and villages listened to his speech replayed again and again. It gave them hope, but it also gave them purpose. They were not just waiting for survival. They were part of something greater. A stand for freedom not only for Earth but for every world the Council had crushed. The alien sent another message. This time the voice was sharper. The envoy said Earth had only one day to decide. If Earth did not kneel, the Council would send fire from the sky. The message was clear, surrender or die. But when the message played, people did not cry. They did not beg. In homes, people looked at one another and smiled that same quiet smile. They had already decided. On the orbital station, Daniel worked late. He ran simulations on the alien shields again and again. He wanted to be sure. Every small weakness he found gave him more confidence. At last, he leaned back in his chair. He whispered to himself, "They don't know us. They don't know what we can do." Captain Mitchell joined him. She was tired but still steady. "Daniel, you should rest." He shook his head. "I can't. If I stop now, we might miss something. They think they're unstoppable. But I think we can hurt them." Laura nodded. "We will. But remember, this fight won't just be won with weapons. It will be won with heart. And that, Daniel, is what humans have more than anyone else." At the same time, Samuel Brooks tested his weapon again. The machine glowed, sending out a beam of light that sliced through a wall of metal. The engineers in the workshop gasped. No alien shield could resist that energy for long. Samuel wiped the sweat from his brow. He said, "It works. Now let's put it where it belongs." The engineers cheered quietly. They knew what this meant. The Council's prideful ships were about to face something they had never dreamed of. In the hidden bases, pilots like Amanda Hayes and Jacob Miller prepared for their missions. They walked among the ships with quiet confidence. Amanda placed her hand on the cold metal of her fighter. She whispered, "We'll show them who we are." Jacob checked his controls and smiled at her. "They think we're just another small world. They're about to learn we're something else." The hours passed quickly. The deadline given by the aliens drew near. Across Earth, people waited. They worked, they prepared, but they did not fear. Children asked their parents why everyone was so calm. Parents answered, "Because we know who we are." That answer was enough. When the deadline came, the Council envoy appeared again on every screen. The alien's face was strange, long and pale, with eyes that glowed like fire. It looked down on humanity as if speaking to insects. "Time is up. Kneel now or be destroyed." In Washington, President Brooks stood before the cameras. His voice was calm, his eyes steady. "We will not kneel. Not today, not ever. We are humans. We choose to stand." Those words traveled across the planet, across the solar system, and even beyond. Every hidden base, every secret ship, every waiting soldier heard them. The answer was final. Earth had spoken. On the orbital station, alarms rang. The alien fleet began to move. The Council ships opened their weapons. The sky lit with energy. Daniel's heart raced, but he kept his hands steady on the console. He looked at Captain Mitchell, and she gave a single nod. This was it. The first strike would come soon. Samuel Brooks received the signal in his workshop. He looked at his team. It's time. They loaded the weapon into the transport, sending it to the waiting fleet. Samuel watched it leave with pride and hope. His creation was no longer just an invention. It was a shield for Earth, a sword for humanity. Amanda Hayes and Jacob Miller climbed into their fighters. The hangars opened, revealing the stars. Their ships roared to life, ready to face the giants above. Amanda smiled, not with arrogance, but with courage. "Let's show them what humans can do." The alien fleet moved closer, expecting easy victory. They did not know what was waiting for them. They did not see the quiet smiles on the faces of humans across the world. They did not understand the hidden strength behind the calm. The first battle had not yet begun, but the shape of the future was already clear. Earth had refused to kneel. The Council thought that meant destruction, but what it really meant was the beginning of something the galaxy had never seen before. Daniel Carter, Captain Laura Mitchell, Samuel Brooks, Amanda Hayes, Jacob Miller, and President Alan Brooks all played their parts. They were pieces of a story greater than themselves, a story that would soon shake the stars. The galaxy had demanded Earth's kneel. Earth had answered with a smile. And now the fire was about to begin. The alien fleet began to shift into attack formation. Their ships glowed like floating cities, each larger than any human vessel. They moved with slow, proud confidence as though certain of their victory. On the orbital station above Earth, alarms filled the air. Red lights pulsed on every wall and officers rushed to their stations. Yet even as danger grew closer, there was no panic. The people on the station had trained for this moment. They were ready. Daniel Carter sat at his console, his eyes fixed on the alien ships. He tracked their energy patterns, searching for weakness. His heart raced, but his hands were steady. He remembered what he had seen before, the brief moments when the alien shields dropped. If they could strike at the right time, they had a chance. He whispered to himself, "We can do this. We just have to believe." Captain Laura Mitchell stood at the center of the command deck. Her voice cut through the noise with calm authority. "Hold positions. Do not fire until I give the order." Her officers obeyed without question. They trusted her. She had led them through danger before, and she would lead them now. On Earth below, the message from President Alan Brooks spread everywhere. His words, "We will not kneel," echoed across cities, towns, and villages. Families listened together. Soldiers repeated the words to each other as they prepared for battle. Children held the hands of their parents and asked if everything would be all right. Parents answered with steady voices, "Yes, we will stand." In his workshop in Arizona, Samuel Brooks received a signal from the orbital station. The weapon he had built was ready to be tested. His eyes burned with tiredness, but his spirit was alive with determination. "Send the first unit to the station," he ordered. His team of engineers nodded and moved quickly. They loaded the device into a transport ship and launched it into the sky. Samuel watched it leave and said quietly, "Let's show them what we've been building." Meanwhile, in hidden hangars on the moon, Amanda Hayes and Jacob Miller climbed into their fighters. They exchanged a glance full of courage. Amanda smiled and said, "If they want to fight, they'll get one." Jacob tightened his gloves and nodded. "Let's give them something they'll never forget." The hangar doors opened and their ships roared into the void of space, small and fast compared to the alien giants. But in their hearts they carried the fire of humanity. The council envoy appeared again on every screen. Its pale, long face twisted with scorn. "You refuse to kneel. Then you will burn. No one defies the council." The alien's voice was like ice, meant to strike fear. But instead of fear, people across Earth and on the station smiled quietly. They knew the moment had come. The first alien shot was fired. A beam of green light cut across space, striking at the orbital station. The shields around the station flickered under the impact, shaking the walls. Officers held onto their consoles. The attack was powerful, but the station endured. Captain Mitchell's voice rang out. "Shields holding. Stand ready." Daniel Carter's console lit up with data. He saw the enemy's power and he also saw their mistake. "Captain, their shields dropped again. Right after they fired. If we time it right, we can strike back." Laura gave a sharp nod. "Prepare the weapons. Wait for my command." The transport carrying Samuel's device reached the station. Engineers rushed to install it into the weapon system. The device hummed with strange energy. It was unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. When the system came online, the weapon bay glowed with new light. Humanity now held a blade sharp enough to cut through the council's pride. Another alien beam struck the station, shaking the decks harder this time. Sparks flew and panels broke loose. Daniel gritted his teeth. "Captain, shields are at 60%. Laura's eyes narrowed. She waited, calm and unshaken. Then the moment came. The alien shields dropped for a fraction of a second. "Fire!" she ordered. The station roared as the new weapon unleashed its first shot. A lance of brilliant blue energy shot across the black of space and struck an alien ship directly. The alien vessel's shield tried to hold, but it shattered like glass under the blast. The human weapon cut through the alien ship's armor, tearing it apart. The massive vessel exploded into light and fire. For the first time in history, the Council had lost a ship to humans. The command deck erupted in cheers, but Laura raised her hand. "Stay focused. This is only the beginning." On the moon, Amanda Hayes and Jacob Miller led a squadron of fighters into the alien fleet. Their ships darted between the massive vessels. too small and too fast for the Council's slow weapons to hit. Amanda fired a volley of missiles at an alien frigate, striking its engines. Jacob followed with a plasma burst that tore open its hull. The frigate spun out of control and burst into flames. The two pilots exchanged a glance, their smiles fierce. Humanity's fighters were proving themselves. In Washington, President Brooks received word of the first victory. His heart swelled with pride, but he stayed steady. He knew the war had just begun. Speaking to his advisors, he said, "Tell the people. Let them know we struck the first blow. Let them know we can win." The news spread across Earth like wildfire. People cheered in the streets. In villages and cities, voices rose together. The Council had been hurt. Humanity was fighting back. It gave them hope, and hope was stronger than fear. Back on the orbital station, Daniel tracked the alien fleet. "Captain, they're regrouping. They're angry now. They'll strike harder." Laura nodded. "Then we'll show them we're ready. We don't break. We don't kneel." The aliens launched their next attack. Dozens of beams fired together, slamming into the station and the fighters around it. Human ships twisted and turned, dodging where they could. Some were struck, but others fought back with clever moves. The aliens had numbers and size, but humans had speed and imagination. Again and again, human ships struck at the weak points Daniel had identified. More alien ships fell, and for the first time the Council fleet wavered. Samuel Brooks listened to the reports in his workshop. Tears filled his eyes, not of sorrow but of pride. His invention was saving lives. "Keep sending them," he told his team. "We'll give our soldiers everything they need." His team worked faster, building more devices to ship out. Amanda Hayes led her squadron deeper into the alien formation. Her fighter dodged beams by inches, but she never lost focus. She targeted the heart of another massive ship. "Now!" she shouted. Missiles launched and the alien ship cracked apart, fire spilling into the void. Jacob's laughter rang over the comms. "We're making history, Amanda." She smiled fiercely. "No, Jacob, we're making the future." The battle raged on for hours. Human ships darted through the darkness, striking fast and vanishing. Alien ships tried to surround them, but the humans were too clever. They fought like wolves, not like sheep. Every move was bold. Every strike was timed perfectly. And slowly the Council fleet began to retreat. They had expected a simple victory. Instead, they found a fight they could not control. On the orbital station, Daniel slumped in his chair, exhausted but alive. His console still glowed with data. He had helped guide the weapons that struck the enemy again and again. Captain Mitchell stood tall, her uniform scorched from the stress of the battle, but her eyes sharp and full of fire. "We stood against them," she said softly, "and we won the first round." President Brooks addressed the world once more. His voice carried pride but also warning. "We have struck them, but they will return. We must stay strong. We must stay united. This is not only our fight. This is a fight for every world that has been forced to kneel." His words reached not only Earth but also distant colonies and secret outposts. Humans everywhere heard him and believed. They were no longer just defending Earth. They were rising against tyranny. The Council fleet pulled back into the dark, their ships glowing with shame. They had been hurt by the youngest world in the galaxy. Their pride was broken, but their hunger for control remained. They would not give up so easily. Daniel Carter looked out of the station window at the retreating fleet. He whispered, "They'll come back. But so will we." Laura Mitchell stood beside him, her eyes cold and steady. "Let them come. Humanity has just begun to fight." And so the first great clash ended. The galaxy had demanded Earth kneel. Earth had answered with fire. Humanity had smiled, and their smile had teeth. The war was only beginning, but the Council now knew one truth they could never forget. Humans would never kneel. The alien fleet had been forced to retreat, but their pride would not allow them to accept defeat. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council had been challenged by a young world they thought was weak. Their ships carried the scars of the battle near Earth, and their commanders seethed with anger. In their halls of power, they promised revenge. They would not stop until Earth was crushed. But what the Council did not understand was that humanity had only begun to fight. On the orbital station, Daniel Carter stared at the glowing screens that tracked the retreating fleet. He felt tired, but inside his chest there was a steady fire. They had survived the first storm. They had done more than survive. They had hurt the Council. His mind replayed the sight of the alien ship exploding under the force of the human weapon. He whispered, "We can really do this. We can win." Captain Laura Mitchell stood nearby. Her uniform was scorched, and her face showed signs of exhaustion, but her eyes were strong. She walked the command deck slowly, checking on every officer, giving a word of encouragement here, a nod there. She knew the battle was far from over. "This was only round one," she told her officers. "They will be back and in greater numbers. We must prepare." Meanwhile, in his workshop in Arizona, Samuel Brooks worked without rest. His team of engineers built more of the strange devices that had turned the tide of battle. Sparks flew from machines as they labored day and night. Samuel's hands were covered in burns and cuts, but he didn't care. His heart was alive with purpose. Every new device was loaded onto transports and sent to hidden bases. "We'll give them what they need," he told his team. "Every ship, every station, every fighter. The Council will learn that we are not easy prey." On the moon, Amanda Hayes and Jacob Miller sat inside their fighters, talking softly over the comms. They had fought in the thick of the battle, dodging alien beams and striking at weak points. Amanda leaned back in her seat and sighed. "They'll bring more next time. Bigger ships, stronger weapons." Jacob gave a tired laugh. "Good, that just means we'll have more to shoot at." Their courage was not arrogance. It was the steady courage of people who had seen the worst and still chose to fight. President Alan Brooks met with his advisors once more in Washington. The world leaders joined him through secure channels. Some still feared the power of the Council, but now their voices were quieter. The proof was clear. Humanity had struck the mighty Council and lived. The president raised his voice above the others. "We must not only defend Earth, we must defend our colonies, our people scattered across the solar system. And we must send a message to every world that the Council has enslaved. They need to know they are not alone. They need to know they can rise." His words traveled across the secret networks, reaching human colonies on Mars, on the moons of Jupiter, and even outposts hidden beyond Saturn. Messages came back quickly. The colonies would not hide. They would fight. Ships hidden for years were brought into the open. Soldiers trained in silence were now ready. Humanity was no longer one planet. It was a network of worlds bound together by the decision not to kneel. When the Council returned, they came with twice the number of ships. Their fleet stretched across the stars like a wall of fire. From the windows of the orbital station, Daniel Carter saw them arrive. The sight was terrifying, but he did not let fear take hold. He remembered Captain Mitchell's words. The fight would be won with heart. His hands moved quickly over the console, tracking energy patterns, searching for flaws. "They're stronger now," he said quietly. "But so are we." Laura Mitchell stood at the front of the command deck. "All stations prepare. Fighters launch. Ground defenses activate. We hold them here." Her voice carried to every ear, steady and commanding. Officers felt their fear lessen. They were led by someone who believed. Amanda Hayes and Jacob Miller launched with their squadrons once again. The small human fighters shot forward like arrows into the massive enemy fleet. They darted between beams of light, dodging with speed and skill. Amanda fired first, striking an enemy ship's engines. Jacob followed with a bold attack on another. The alien vessels tried to respond, but the humans were too fast, too unpredictable. Each pilot fought not for glory, but for survival, for their families, for their people. On Earth, ordinary men and women prepared as well. Factories produced weapons, food, and supplies. Farmers loaded their harvests to feed soldiers. Doctors trained for the wounded they would soon treat. Teachers spoke to children, telling them stories of humanity's past victories so they would understand that even in dark times, humans endured. The fight was not just in space. It was in every home, in every heart. The battle in orbit began with thunder. Alien beams slammed into human defenses. The shields held for a while, but cracks appeared. The Council ships poured fire across the skies, determined to erase Earth. Yet the humans fought back fiercely. The weapons Samuel had built struck again and again, tearing holes in alien armor. Daniel's sharp eyes found each weakness, and Laura gave the orders to strike. One by one, alien ships fell, their wreckage lighting up the void. But the cost was heavy. Human fighters were lost, stations damaged, colonies threatened. Amanda's squadron was cut in half, but she and Jacob pressed forward, refusing to retreat. "We can't stop now," Amanda shouted as her ship spun through debris. Jacob's voice came back steady. "We won't. Not ever." On the surface of Mars, human soldiers faced their first attack. Alien dropships landed in the red dust, spilling out troops in strange armor. The Martian defenders met them with fire. The battle was brutal, but the humans fought with stubborn strength. They had nowhere to run, so they stood their ground. Across the solar system, the same scenes played out, small human forces holding against overwhelming alien numbers. And everywhere the message was the same. Earth does not kneel. Back on the orbital station, Daniel's console flashed with a warning. A massive alien dreadnought was powering its main weapon. If it fired, the station would be destroyed. Daniel shouted, "Captain, we have to stop it now." Laura turned to her crew. "Focus everything on that ship now." The station's weapons fired together, joined by fighters swarming in from every side. Samuel's device burned bright as it unleashed its power. The human attack pierced the dreadnought's shield just as its weapon charged. The alien ship shuddered, its systems breaking apart. Then, with a flash that shook the stars, it exploded into a storm of fire. The humans cheered, their voices rising above the roar. Another giant had fallen, but the battle was not yet done. The Council's fleet still outnumbered the humans, and they fought with fury. Ships collided, beams crossed, and explosions lit the night sky. The orbital station shook again and again. Panels cracked, alarms screamed, and smoke filled the air. Yet still, Laura stood tall. "We hold the line," she shouted. Her officers, her soldiers, and her pilots answered with courage. On Earth, President Brooks watched the reports. His face was pale, but his voice was steady. He spoke again to the people. "We are paying a heavy price. But every ship we destroy, every battle we fight, proves to the galaxy that we will not bow. We are showing them a new path, one of freedom." His words gave strength to those who listened, even as fear pressed close. As the hours passed, the Council fleet began to falter. They had expected an easy conquest. Instead, they faced a storm of resistance. Human ships, though smaller and fewer, fought with fire and imagination. The Council commanders grew desperate, and finally they ordered retreat. Their great fleet pulled back once more, their pride wounded even deeper. On the orbital station, silence followed the battle. Fires burned, wounds were tended, but the people stood tall. Daniel slumped in his chair, exhausted but alive. Laura walked the deck, her face streaked with smoke and sweat, but her voice strong. "We held them again, and we will hold them every time." Amanda Hayes and Jacob Miller landed their fighters, battered but still flying. They stepped out onto the hangar floor, embraced by fellow pilots. Amanda whispered, "We did it." Jacob nodded with a tired smile. "And we'll do it again." Samuel Brooks collapsed in his workshop, too tired to move, but his team cheered around him. His inventions had saved lives. His work had helped turn the tide once more. He closed his eyes and whispered, "This is only the beginning." Across Earth and its colonies, the people celebrated quietly. They mourned their losses, but they also understood what they had achieved. Twice the Council had come, and twice they had been pushed back. Humanity had shown the galaxy something new, courage that could not be broken. The Council in their grand halls burned with shame and fury. They promised that next time they would end Earth forever. But fear had already spread among their ranks. For the first time, whispers of doubt moved through their worlds, and beyond their reach, enslaved planets listened too. They heard the stories of Earth's defiance, and for the first time in generations, they dared to hope. Daniel Carter stood at the window of the orbital station, staring out at the stars. Laura Mitchell joined him, her arms crossed, her face thoughtful. "They'll be back," she said quietly. Daniel nodded. "Yes, but so will we." The galaxy had demanded Earth kneel. Humanity had answered again with fire, with courage, with unity. The Council could not understand it yet, but the truth was spreading. Humanity's stand was no longer just for themselves. It was for every world longing to. The Council's defeat above Earth and Mars echoed across the galaxy. Worlds that had lived in silence for generations suddenly whispered about the humans. Some called them reckless, others foolish, but most called them brave. For the first time, oppressed planets dared to imagine that the Council was not invincible. The Council, humiliated, swore revenge. They gathered their greatest fleets near their capital world. They wanted to show the galaxy that Earth's victories had been nothing but accidents. They promised to erase humanity in one final strike. But humanity had no intention of waiting to be erased. On the orbital station, Daniel Carter studied the latest scans of the galaxy. The Council fleet was massive, larger than anything humanity had ever seen. The numbers alone could crush them 100 times over. His hands shook as he looked at the data, but then he remembered the battles they had already survived. They had fought against odds before and they had won. He took a breath and said softly, "We're not done yet." Captain Laura Mitchell walked into the command deck, her face steady as always. She had seen the same reports and she knew the danger, but she also knew the truth. Fear did not guide humans. She looked at Daniel and the other officers. "The council wants us to come to their capital. Then that's where we'll go, not to bow but to show them who we are." President Alan Brooks spoke to the world once more. His words were calm yet filled with fire. "The council believes they can end us with one final battle. They believe they can frighten us into silence. But they are wrong. We will not kneel. We will not hide. We will take this fight to their very heart. Not for conquest, not for power, but for freedom. For every world that has been forced to bow, we will stand." In Arizona, Samuel Brooks prepared the most powerful version of his weapon yet. His workshop was a storm of sparks and noise as his team worked without sleep. The new device was larger, stronger, designed to strike at the biggest ships in the galaxy. Samuel's hands trembled as he adjusted the final circuits. He looked at his team and said, "This is it. This is the one that will end their reign." His words carried both fear and hope, but the engineers around him nodded with determination. They knew the weight of what they were building. Amanda Hayes and Jacob Miller trained day and night with their squadrons. They knew the battle ahead would be unlike any other. Amanda sat in her fighter running drills, pushing the ship to its limits. She whispered, "We'll fly into their fire and we'll come out alive." Jacob in his own ship heard her words over the comm and answered, "Together, always together." Their bond, like the bond of all humans, was the source of their strength. The fleet gathered. From Earth, Mars, the Moon, and the distant colonies, every ship joined together. They were not many compared to the Council's armada, but they carried something greater than numbers. They carried courage. They carried hope. They carried the belief that they were fighting not only for Earth, but for all who longed for freedom. The journey to the Council's capital was long and filled with danger. Alien scouts tried to block their way, but the human fleet struck hard and fast, clearing the path. On board the orbital station, Daniel tracked their progress. His eyes grew heavy from lack of sleep, but he kept working. Every weakness he found in the enemy's defenses gave them another chance. Captain Mitchell never left the command deck. She spoke little, but when she did, her words gave strength to everyone who heard them. At last, the human fleet arrived at the edge of the Council's capital system. Before them stretched the largest armada ever assembled. Alien ships filled the stars, thousands upon thousands, their lights glowing like a sea of fire. The sight stole Daniel's breath. For a moment, even Amanda and Jacob were silent in their cockpits. The Council's power was overwhelming. But then the silence broke with a single thought spoken by Captain Mitchell. "We've come this far. We won't turn back now." The Council envoy appeared once more, its pale face full of hate. "You have gone too far. You will not survive this day. Humanity will be erased and your name forgotten." The voice spread across every channel, but President Brooks appeared as well, his voice calm and steady. "We are not here to kneel. We are here to stand. And to every world watching we say this, you do not have to bow anymore. Stand with us. Fight with us. Be free." Those words traveled like fire. Across the galaxy, enslaved worlds heard them. On planets where the Council's grip was strongest, people rose in defiance. Chains were broken. Weapons were lifted. The Council thought they were fighting only Earth, but now they were facing something greater. They were facing the spark of rebellion everywhere. The battle began with thunder. The Council's armada opened fire, their beams crossing the stars. The human fleet charged forward, small and fast, weaving through the storm. Amanda and Jacob led their squadrons into the heart of the enemy formation. Their fighters darted like shadows, striking engines, cutting through weak points. Alien ships exploded one after another, but still more came. On the orbital station, Daniel worked faster than ever. His console glowed with warnings, but he kept calm. He found each small weakness in the enemy shields and sent the data to the fighters. "Strike there. Now there." His voice guided Amanda, Jacob, and the others as they cut through ships much larger than their own. Every success gave the fleet another breath. Samuel's new weapon was fired for the first time. A beam of pure light ripped across space and struck the largest Council warship. Its shields cracked, its armor broke, and the mighty vessel shattered into burning fragments. Cheers erupted across the human fleet. Samuel heard the reports from his workshop and smiled for the first time in days. "It works," he whispered. "It really works, but the cost was high. Human ships fell, fighters were lost, and the orbital station shook under constant fire. Amanda's squadron dwindled and Jacob's ship was hit, sparks filling his cockpit. Amanda's voice rang out fierce and unbroken. "Stay with me, Jacob, we're not done yet." Jacob, coughing through the smoke, answered, "Never. I'll never stop." Their determination burned brighter than any weapon. The council commanders watched in disbelief. They had expected Earth to fall quickly, but instead their ships were falling faster than they could count. And worse, reports came from across the galaxy, rebellions breaking out everywhere. Planets they had ruled for centuries were rising. Their fleets were crumbling, not just in this battle, but in every corner of their empire. At the height of the battle, President Brooks sent one final message to the galaxy. His voice was carried on every channel, even through the Council's attempts to block it. "This is the end of fear. This is the beginning of freedom. We are human and we will never kneel, and neither should you." The words became the spark that lit the galaxy. Enslaved soldiers turned on their masters. Captains of conquered worlds refused to fire on humans. The Council's control shattered before their eyes. Their great fleet began to collapse. In one final strike, Captain Mitchell ordered all human ships to focus their fire on the Council's command vessel. Daniel's data guided their aim. Amanda and Jacob led the fighters in close. Samuel's weapon fired its strongest blast. Together, the combined force tore through the ship's shields and armor. The Council's proud command vessel exploded in a storm of fire that lit the sky brighter than a sun. The Council fleet broke. Some ships fled. Others surrendered. Across the galaxy, the news spread. Earth had not only survived, but Earth had won. Humanity had done what no one else had dared. They had defied the Council and broken its grip on the stars. On the orbital station, Daniel slumped in his chair, exhausted. He looked at Captain Mitchell, who stood tall, her face calm but her eyes shining. "It's over," Daniel said softly. She shook her head. "No, it's just beginning. But we've shown them. We've shown the galaxy what it means to be human." Amanda and Jacob landed their battered fighters, greeted by cheers from fellow pilots. They embraced briefly, both too tired to speak, but their smile said everything. Samuel Brooks sat in his workshop, tears rolling down his face as he listened to the reports. His invention had helped change the galaxy. President Brooks stood before the cameras one last time, his words quiet but strong. "We did not kneel, and because of that, the galaxy will never be the same." The Council's halls lay in ruins, their power broken, their arrogance shattered. And across countless worlds, people stood taller, their chains gone. The galaxy had demanded Earth kneel. Humanity had answered with a smile, with fire, with courage. They had stood, and by standing, they had given hope to all. In the silence after the battle, Daniel Carter stood by the window of the station, looking out at the stars. Laura Mitchell joined him, her hands clasped behind her back. "Do you think they'll ever forget?" Daniel asked softly. Laura's voice was steady. "No, and neither will we." The stars shone brighter than ever. Humanity had changed the galaxy forever. They had stood when all expected them to fall. And now, a new age was beginning. An age of freedom, born from the day the galaxy demanded Earth kneel, and humanity just smiled.